the arena, not the situation with Clay Aiken, who did just that. And you used a phrase here when we were just talking. Were you planning on it, or were you recruited to do it?
Well, I had someone, actually a friend of mine in LA, who is involved with politics, who mentioned it to me a few times and put me in touch with some people in Washington who then spent about 9-10 months peppering me with facts and information and saying, oh, you need to get into the race. And I think that you would, I guess recruit is probably the right word to use, but you know, it was a back and forth for a while.
And then here's the thing, I'll make a blanket statement. You cannot succeed in politics, basically, unless you're independently wealthy.
Or unless you have you kiss a lot of big money butt. So, which is really a problem, I think. I mean, that's the problem with politics right now. People always say, this is my big issue, this is the issue, this is the policy issue, the environment, education, veterans affairs, whatever it is. And all of that would be fixed if we get money out of politics. If we'd have people stop casting votes, or people in Congress or wherever making their decisions based on who's giving them donations, we get other things done. And that's the kind of thing I learned this past year.
American Idol was how long ago?
12 years ago.
And is that the blessing or the burden? Because we know you.
Both. I mean, you know, I'm known because of it, but as we ran this past year in North Carolina, that was sort of the mountain. We called it the mountain. And because people had that reaction, what the heck is Clay Aiken doing running for Congress? And we had to climb that. And I think we did in North Carolina in large part. I had a lot of Republicans come up to me and say, hey, you know what? I think you know what you're talking about. I'm still not going to vote for you because I don't agree with you. But, you know, we climbed that mountain some, but it's a challenge.
I've heard you say you were a bit naive about all of it, in that people would come up to you and say, I'm going to vote for you, and you sort of got to this point in your head where you thought, I'm not with this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a bubble. You live in a bubble, and I'd be in Southern Pines or Pinehurst in North Carolina, very conservative areas, and people come up on the street to me and say, I'm a Republican, I always vote Republican, but I like what you're saying, and I'm going to vote for you. And I think, oh, well, snap, we got this. And you don't see the 50 other people who are behind you and are not coming up to tell you they're voting for you. So
it's hard to gauge out about
you really, right? You do live in a bubble, and you know, I saw the Mitt Romney documentary, and he at the very end is very surprised that he lost, and I totally empathize with that, because you know, when you're surrounded by people who are all agreeing with you and who obviously all will vote for you, or people who come up to you will vote for you, you think, man, I got a lot more support than I do.
Esquire Network dispatched a documentary crew, and your requirement was, you guys can do this, but just stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be revealing? We're going to look at a clip in a second.
They stayed out of the way. I've only seen parts of this. They're very uncomfortable at times to watch. I mean, you know, it's a very stressful year, and they did stay out of the way, and there are things that they shot that I don't even remember them getting. And so it's sometimes difficult to see what we went through over the last year, but you know, it's an interesting yearbook.
It's called Runner Up. Take a look at this.
That stuff doesn't hurt my feelings so much, but it gives me a sense of reality. Homosexuality is an abomination in the sight of God, just like stealing and lying. People on the trail, you know, they don't tell me that they have a problem with gays. Now, will they leave behind my back and say, I'm not voting for him because he's a homo? Very possibly, yeah. But they don't say it to my face. And I think that other gay men and women probably get it worse than I do, because they don't have the protection of celebrity.
Given the part of the country where you ran, was that a significant element, you think, in not succeeding?
It wasn't. Well, you know, it's hard to say. It probably was. But as I said, I didn't see it, you know. The issues that were talked about most, and the thing that was hardest for me, was overcoming that stigma of just being the singer. The constitutional amendment in North Carolina banning gay marriage actually was struck down by the courts about 2 weeks before the election. So the last 2 to 3 weeks of the campaign ended up being a little bit more about same-sex marriage or about gay issues than the rest of the year had been. And I'll admit, you know, I was very excited that that happened. But at the same time, while I'm in this bubble and I think I'm winning, and then all of a sudden this happens, there were times where I thought, gosh, if that had just happened the day after the election, that would be so much better.
Right. Do you regret it, or would you ever run again?
No, I don't regret it at all. I learned a lot about the political process. I don't know that I'll run again right away. I think it's probably on the table for somewhere down the road, but you know, I think I've discovered that You don't get anything done in Congress. Who thinks that they're getting anything done in Congress? Nobody. And I think it's possible that I might have more effect being able to talk about some of these issues outside of elected.
I was just about to say that because that's what a lot of people say, that I can actually contribute more to the process doing something else. What do you think that something else is?
I don't know. You know, I've got a platform and I can talk about issues like campaign finance reform. I can talk and hopefully tell the stories of some people who are ignored, you know, people who kind of sit on the fringes of the margins, the outsiders. I'm an underdog, have been for the last 12 years, and there are a lot of underdogs in this country who don't have their stories told too. So if I can use the microphone to do that, that's something I'd like to do.
The documentary Runner-Up is on the Esquire Network. New episode tomorrow night at 10. Clay, really nice to see you. Good for you.
Thank you
Thanks so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Coming up, a newly discovered frog.